From R.D. Smothers Wealth Management, this is The Retirement.
When you retire, if you want an exciting life, you need a boring investment strategy.
Matters.
If you enter into retirement without a plan for income, you're not retired, you're simply unemployed.
Podcast.
Hey, this is your host, Dale Smothers, and you're listening to the Retirement Matters Podcast. My hope is that you will find the information you need in every single show on how to do one of the three things: either saving more money more efficiently, planning better for your future where you can live in retirement worry-free, or my favorite, how you can live a happy and fulfilled life in this life you have been given. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it listening to this episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast. On this episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast, we take a deep dive into a case study of how the Social Security Fairness Act has impacted the government pension offset and the Windfall Elimination Provision. We use two clients, Martha and George, as an example, of course, changing names and numbers, but it helps illustrate the point that an individual who has not yet received Social Security because of these two provisions may very easily be impacted in a both positive and potentially negative way if we fail to plan for the coming change. The Social Security Fairness Act was put into law January the 5th, 2025, and I'm confident that this will be the point of emphasis for many retirement planners for the next year to year and a half as we begin to get more clarity on how this will be rolled out to the general population. If we can be of any assistance in this process, we would welcome the opportunity to sit down with you and begin discussing your own retirement income plans. 270-600-PLAN. Without further ado, we're going to this week's episode titled George and Martha, a Social Security Case Study. Enjoy the show. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well and you're ready to start discussing all things retirement matters. This morning, the show is going to be full of information you need, especially if you are receiving a teacher's pension, you plan on receiving a teacher's pension, or you receive a government pension of any kind. You need to be aware of what changes have just taken place in Social Security. We're going to go through some case studies, some common questions. We're going to discuss some things that the Social Security Administration's not been particularly clear on in how they're going to roll out this change. And we're going to discuss some things that you need to be thinking about if you are going to be a recipient of these changes. So again, this show is for you if you are a teacher who is planning on receiving a pension, already receiving a pension, or a government employee who receives pensions from the government system, state or federal. It's likely that you have been subject to something called a windfall provision or a government offset provision, and either of those two things that have affected you are now no longer the law, which is going to increase a lot of people's Social Security. We're going to talk about the implications of that in this show. But of course, before we get to any of those things, we've got to cover first things first, which is our pause for positivity. Last week, we discussed getting 1% better than you were yesterday. 1% better, and that's a compound interest effect. It's not a 365% increase at the end of the year. It's much, much, much larger if you're getting 1% better today than you were yesterday. So I'm curious, how did we do with that last week? Did we strive to be 1% better? Did we do our homework? I like to ask my Little League teams. I'm coaching basketball right now. I like to ask them, did you do your homework? And I'm not talking about schoolwork. I'm talking about getting better at basketball homework, how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot, things that I send them home with to work on. So I ask you today, did you do your homework? and at the end of the day, this is not a grade. It's not a pass or fail. It's a striving to always be better, which leads me to this week's Pause for Positivity. And it is a concept that was expanded on by a gentleman named Dan Sullivan called the gap versus gain principle. He wrote a book about this, the gap versus gain principle. And the gap of what we measure ourselves against is oftentimes what we pay so much attention to. In other words, to put this in different perspective, I want you to think about the horizon, and I want you to think about how far away you are from the horizon. And if one day you decided you were going to set a charted course towards the horizon, and your only objective was to get to the horizon, the only way you were successful was to reach the horizon, I've got news for you. You are never going to be successful. Why? Well, because the horizon is always moving. As your perspective changes, so does the horizon. As you move through life, the horizon of what you hope to accomplish consistently moves. And it's important for us to, instead of measuring our success by the distance between where we are and where we want to be, to instead turn around and look at how far we've come. Thus, the gain principle. How far have we gained? We need to stop measuring our success on how far we have to go and instead turn and look at how far we've come. Now, we could not have gotten this far without the help of family, without the help of friends, without the help of the Creator. But you need to be able to pat yourself on the back, not resting on your laurels, not being complacent where you are, but still being able to turn around and say, look at how far I've come. If we measure how far we've come in the last 1 year, it makes us realize I'm doing the right thing. I am progressing towards my objective, which is, yes, in the horizon at this moment. But there comes a point in life where you have to say, it's enough. Enough is enough. And so the pause for positive thought this week is, yes, we need to strive to get 1% better every day. And that's a simple sounding task. But do not beat yourself up over the fact that you're not where you want to be. Instead, turn around, examine how far you've come, and be proud that you have made it this far. There are things in your life, no doubt, that you want to be better at, whether that's a skill, a hobby, maybe it's an actual career skill that you have to advance in your career, or maybe it's a career in general, a career path, building a business. It could be as simple yet very important, such as a family relationship. Maybe it's reconciling with someone who has done you wrong, and you realize, I have to be the person that starts the reconciliation process. Whatever that is, knowing where you want to be is extremely important. Knowing where you want to end in this journey is important. But if you consistently measure yourself against how far you are away from the destination, you will fail to realize how far you've come from the start. And this is the gap versus gain principle. Now, if you're a reader, I would challenge you to pick up the book, Gap versus Gain. If you're not a reader, take this concept in, roll it around, put it in your toolbox. Maybe you don't need it right now. Maybe it's just something you store away and you can deploy at a later time. But together, if we consistently have goals and ambitions set on the horizon, I'm not against that, trust me, but we will also take the time to look back at how far we've come and then even compliment others on how far they've come. This world will be a better place. And it starts with you. It starts with me. Together, we will make this world a better place to live than we found it. Let's make that happen. All right, we're going to go to a quick break. We're coming back with Retirement Matters. Specifically on this show, we are discussing Social Security, how it is changing, and who's going to be impacted. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back after this.
You're listening to the Retirement Matters Show with Dale Smothers. Dale is the founder and president of R.D. Smothers Wealth Management. We specialize in building retirement plans that allow you to walk away from the worry of running out of money. If you'd like to chat with a member of our team, you can do so absolutely free by calling 270-600-PLAN. That's 270-600-PLAN. Visit us online at rdswealth.com and be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've got a lot of content to get through, and I want to make sure we get to as much of it as possible. This show is going to address the recent changes, the Social Security Fairness Act. The Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law on January the 5th, 2025. So it is hot and fresh off of the presses, so hot and so fresh that the Social Security Administration's not even been able to tell us how they're going to roll out these changes. There are people who are rightfully owed money in the Social Security system right now, and the Social Security Administration's not yet sure how they're going to get this done. And to be real frank with you, I don't even know that it's going to be done by the end of the year. So I want to set that tone very quickly. What we are discussing here today is going to happen. I just can't tell you when. But it is necessary for you, and I'm going to show you some examples here today. It's necessary for you to start planning ahead. If you are not having this conversation with your financial advisor and you've been impacted, you need to. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're a client of RDS Wealth, at our annual strategy session, we will be discussing this if you're impacted. If you're impacted in a way where it could be a significant impact, we're going to reach out to you before your annual strategy session and begin discussing what changes need to take place inside of your income plan. You may be thinking, now, Dale, what in the world could be so important that we need to change an income plan because I'm getting more money? And the answer is taxes. And we're going to go through a scenario where this could impact you. So again, if you're an RDS Wealth client already listening to the show, rest assured we are on top of this. We are paying attention to this. And in our annual meetings, we will be addressing the changes that we are doing for you behind the scenes to make sure that your taxes are okay, that your income continues, and potentially that your retirement account begins to do a little bit better because you're not needing as much money from the retirement account. However, if you are not a client of RDS Wealth, you need to be reaching out to your advisor quickly. And if your advisor's not able to help you, or maybe not aware, or maybe just tells you, don't worry about it, those changes haven't even started yet, give us a call, 270-600-PLAN. We'd be happy to sit down and at least begin discussing the details with you. We've had several calls that we've told them this doesn't apply to you because we ask some questions. We ask about their work history. And so one of those very specific questions that we ask is, are you a teacher or a government worker who is set to receive a pension? Or you're currently receiving a pension, yes or no? And if the answer is no, you do not have a direct, immediate impact here. But of course, if your family members is a yes, we are a teacher or we do receive pensions, there's a direct impact. And the impact is that you will likely receive a larger check, or for some people who are not receiving a check because of their pension, you will finally start to receive a check and you're subject to back pay. So you need to be talking to your advisor about this and how it changes your plan. And if your advisor says it doesn't change your plan at all and you want a second opinion, give us a call, 270-600-PLAN. Our team would love to sit down with you. One other thing that you need to be aware of is that if you know for sure this impacts you because you've already done your own research, maybe you heard our show or you've already heard about this coming change, and you have not yet claimed Social Security. You're at Social Security age. You would have claimed Social Security, but you knew that because you were a teacher, let's say, you did not get Social Security, so you just never went and claimed. Go claim now. Go claim now. Again, I'm not telling everyone to go claim Social Security. I'm telling you that if you would have claimed Social Security and you did not because you knew that you were subject to these provisions that prohibited Social Security checks coming to you, go claim now. I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. So let's get into a scenario. Let's do a quick case study. And I think this is good for us to set the tone. We'll reset. We'll take a few breaks as we go through this case study together. But I'm going to picture a husband and wife. Husband's name is George. Wife's name is Martha. Husband George has paid into Social Security for 40 years. He's worked a private employment. He has not worked in a school system. He's not worked as a government employee. His primary insurance amount at full retirement age for him for Social Security, he would be receiving a $3,600 per month check in Social Security. So he's made good money while he worked at a place of employment. But George decided to wait until he was 70 to take Social Security. So for that reason, his check is $4,752 a month. And George and Martha have been living now with that Social Security check for a few years. Martha, who paid into a teacher's retirement for 30 years, she receives a $6,000 per month teacher's pension. Now, that teacher's pension doesn't have cost of living adjustments on a regular basis. It's all decided by legislature as to whether or not those get a cost of living adjustment. So we're going to assume it's been $6,000 per month since she started, and she did not pay into Social Security, so she does not qualify for her own Social Security benefit. Now, in this case study, originally, under old law, George would receive his Social Security, but Martha would receive nothing as the spouse. Many of you may be aware of this, but as a spouse, you can receive up to half of your spouse's primary insurance amount. Now, that's a different class, which we hold. We do hold Social Security classes, and if you're interested in learning more about this in a classroom setting, give us a call. We've got one coming up, I believe, late January, maybe early February. We'd love to get you enrolled in that class. It's free of charge. It's a 2-hour class where we take a deep dive into Social Security, and then we can offer an opportunity to learn about your specifics of Social Security in a more intimate one-on-one session. But again, this is something that we learn about in that class. The spousal benefit, we're not going to go into a lot of detail here on the radio. We have very limited time. But what I do want you to know is that there is something called a spousal benefit, which you should be able to receive. Martha cannot because of the government offset provision. This is old law. Martha would not have also received what we call a spousal survival benefit. So if you know about Social Security, when someone dies, the highest of the two checks stays. But because Martha is receiving a check from her teacher's pension, she would not receive George's full Social Security check. Instead, she would receive $750 roughly of that check. But now, under new laws, she goes from receiving nothing from Social Security to receiving as much as $1,800 from Social Security because of earning half of what her husband makes. So she's still drawing her $6,000 from school pension, and now she's also receiving an additional $1,800 a month. And here's a big kicker. She is subject to and rightfully owed 12 months of back pay. I'm using air quotes here, back pay in that $1,800 per month. That's a $21,000 check, $21,600 to be exact, that would be coming to Martha for the back pay of 2024, because this bill that passed made it a back pay date as it stands of January the 1st, 2024, if you would have otherwise been taking Social Security. So Martha, in this case, would have received a $21,600 check. But we're going to take this one step farther.
And I'm going to assume that George has passed away. So this is what you've got to be thinking about. And there are people out there right now listening, and if it's you, we need to talk to you. You didn't receive Social Security, maybe as a teacher, because, again, you paid into the teacher system. Your husband or wife received Social Security, and now they have passed away. Does this bill impact you? And it does. And here's how it impacts Miss Martha. Again, remember, Martha was a teacher for 30 years. She retired. George was 70 when he took his Social Security, $4,300 a month. But because George is married to Martha, Martha is not eligible for Social Security at all, including the survivor benefit. But that changes. And if George passed away, let's say in 2023, he passed away before this law was even considered. Now, George's full retirement check of $4,752 is due to Martha. You see, under the old laws, when George passed away, George's Social Security check went away. Martha received very, very, very little, $750. But now, under the new laws, Martha is going to receive the full $4,700. So again, almost a $4,000 swing to the good for Martha. And she is due this in a 12-month back pay because, remember, George passed in 2023. Under the current understanding of this law, she would be receiving all of 2024's back pay for that at $4,000 a month. That's $48,000 check that she would receive. And as it stands, we expect Social Security to make that a lump sum check with the same deposit information that they have on file. So you're going to want to make sure that you update that. And here's another thing. If it takes, let's say, 12 months to unroll this thing, I mean, it seriously could take that long. Social Security could drag their feet, not understanding all the laws. Let's imagine it takes the entire year to roll this thing out. By the end of 2025, Martha would be subject to a back payment of $106,000 due to a cost of living adjustment that took place in 2025. This is life-changing money for Martha. This is over a year's salary for Martha. And this is big money that she needs to be aware of in her tax plan as well. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not me telling you that you're going to receive an additional $100,000 if you've been taking a teacher's pension. But I am telling you that Social Security's changes that has recently took place is going to impact you in a positive way. But with that positive infusion of cash, whether it's $20,000 or $100,000 that you're due in back pay, you have to know what it's going to do to your tax situation for that year. And that's what we're going to discuss right after we come back. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with more Retirement Matters right after this.
Thank you for listening to Retirement Matters, presented by R.D. Smothers Wealth Management. If you'd like to speak with us, give us a call at 270-600-PLAN. And if you enjoy the information in this show and would like to hear more, you can access previous shows by searching for the Retirement Matters podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. We also produce a weekly newsletter. Receive it free to your email inbox by signing up online at rdswealth.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. This is a lot of information, so please forgive me if I've made your eyes glaze over, or hopefully I've not made you tune out, because this is going to impact a lot of people, and it's likely to impact you. And I'm going to discuss very, very briefly at the end of the show how it will impact you, even if you're not receiving additional checks. But we have to be aware of what taxes are going to do if you're receiving an additional check for income on a monthly basis, or you're receiving an additional back payment lump sum. Let's go back to Miss Martha. And I want to paint the picture for you one more time that Martha and her husband George, up until 2023 when he passed away, were living on around $100,000 a year. This $100,000 a year after tax is what they had set their lifestyle on. Well, when George passed away, $4,700 disappeared because his paycheck left. His Social Security paycheck left. But thankfully, they had been planning for the income gap that would arise when George passed, and now they've been pulling out of their IRA to supplement their income. And during this time, even through 2024, she's been pulling right at $45,000 to $50,000 of IRA distributions per year to supplement this additional income need. Now in 2025, she hears that she's going to receive a back payment of as much as $100,000. And she, until this back payment comes and the new Social Security check comes, still needs to supply her income. So she's pulling money off of her savings just like normal. We are likely to want to transition her from taking money from her IRA as distributions to taking money from either a Roth position or just savings on the side, what we would call non-qualified money. And the reason is very clear when we look at her tax picture. This is, again, what we do here at RDS Wealth. We help you look at the tax situation from year to year for income expenses. Make sure you're doing this as efficiently as possible. We help you manage your money against risk. We help you build the tax plan for tax efficiency on taking income distributions and where you should be taking those, helping you set up legacy plans, making sure we're shopping Medicare in the correct way, getting you in the right plan, guarding against long-term care, all of those things we do. But for Miss Martha, it becomes very clear that we need to revisit her tax plan. And under her current tax plan, we expect around a $17,000, $18,000 federal tax bill. If she receives this federal retroactive tax payment, she gets this $100,000 infusion of cash, her modified adjusted gross income increases tremendously. And because of that, her tax bill goes from $17,600 from last year to a projected $40,600 this year. But if we're able to stop taking distributions from her IRA and instead take those from other sources for the years 2025 and for the months that we don't have that income still coming in, because again, it's going to take a little bit of time for Social Security to get this done. If we're able to change this now to taking money from Roth positions or maybe even from emergency fund positions, we would lower her tax bill for the same year with the same money coming in from $40,000 to as little as $28,000. It's still an increase from her normal years because she just received $100,000 in her pocket that is, at least at this point, fully taxable. However, what we did is transition where she's taking her monthly day-to-day income from, and by paying attention to this, we saved her nearly $12,000 in 2025's taxes. This is huge. This is a big savings. $12,000 is another 12% on the $100,000 that she received. Now, we believe here at RDS Wealth that if we can help save in taxes, help make it more efficient, it's the same as if we made that money in the market, except there's no risk involved. And that's how we build retirement plans for our clients. Now, I want to tell you one last thing that's going to impact everybody, and that's the solvency of Social Security. And by paying out this extra hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars throughout the lifetime of these recipients that we were not factoring on, and I believe they're rightfully owed this money, don't get me wrong, but it really raises the question of how long Social Security will last in its current state. And so for those of you who have not yet filed Social Security, or maybe you're just reaching 60, 61, we need to really consider what it's going to do to your plan if Social Security is cut by 50 or 60 or 75%. Can you still make your dreams come true in retirement? And if the answer is, I don't know, sit down with someone on our team. Let's begin to discuss this. 2025 is the year of planning around Social Security, if there ever has been one. Whether it's because you have a direct impact and now your checks are about to increase, give us a call, 270-600-PLAN. Or if it's because you want to know what it looks like if Social Security goes down for you, it's decreased for you. And everything we've just talked about is an increase in Social Security, but the bucket will run dry at some point if things don't change. And I want to ask you, are you ready for that? And we can help you understand whether or not you are. And if you're not, we can help put some plans into motion to make it happen. Retirement can be everything you imagine it to be. It can be exactly what you desire it to be, whether the market is up or down. If you just put the right amount of planning into motion, doing it sooner rather than later is warranted. And I would recommend that if you're over the age of 60 and you have not yet began to build a plan for what retirement income phase looks like, let's start together. 270-600-PLAN. Now, this has been a very different show, not a show we typically do. And again, I hope it's not been too much information for you to digest over the radio. But if you need our help, if you need our expertise, we're one phone call away. 270-600-PLAN can get you in front of a team member, and we can begin discussing the retirement you've always imagined. Make sure that it comes to fruition. Or if at the very least there need to be some changes, you're prepared to make those happen. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and until we talk again, whether that's in person or right here on this show next week, always remember, save money, plan well, and live happy in retirement. God bless.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and RD Smothers Wealth Management are not affiliated companies. Investing involves a risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. RD Smothers Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by RD Smothers Wealth Management.